Gert Sellheim was born in 1901 in Estonia to German parents. In 1919, he fought in the White Army in the Estonian War of Independence, then went on to study architecture in Berlin, Munich, Vienna, Graz, and Paris. Like many other Europeans, after World War II, he sought after a more fruitful life and moved to Australia in 1926. Unfortunately, his education was not recognised and his English was not seen as proficient enough, so he worked on a farm for 2 years to improve his English. Afterwards, his qualifications were finally recognised and he was registered as an architect. He moved to Melbourne in 1930 and began working for the ANTA, producing posters to boost Australian tourism. He especially focused on Australian culture and identity, for example, beach culture. In doing so, trains, tourists, destinations, and beaches were illustrated and verbalized as never before using state-of-the-art techniques derived from the new field of commercial art. Sellheim's design philosophy was very much modern, which was disconcerting to some of the people he worked with. He was sporadic with his designs, as Oswald Ziegler's son Alan observed that Gert would often be given large folios of photos by people like Max Dupain, decide where they would go, then begin slicing them into the shapes he wanted and paste them down. Sellheim's Surf Club, created in 1936, depicts 5 women on the beach practicing safe swimming. The colours are bold, with strong geometric outlines of the women contrasting against a plain background. Sellheim uses modernist principles such as less is more and elementary geometric forms, despite the stiff outlines. There is movement and the intent is clear. Similar to other modernist designs, there is no ornate additions and the message about the Surf Club is obvious. His work was also made to be easily mass-printed, participating in the mass production of modernism. The ANTA wanted tourists to visit Australia, and beaches are a prominent feature of our country. Sellheim worked with this and used beach culture as a selling point. As swimming at the beach became more popular, as did the dangers, and the ANTA needed to promote safer swimming, so designers went to work. Modern machine technologies of print reproduction, as mentioned earlier, is also very important as the ANTA was trying to inform as many people as possible, and the internet and social media were not around then. By utilising mass printing and pasting them all over the country, the public were informed of safety and a potential club they could also join. Sellheim's Australia for Sun and Surf, created in 1936, displays an attractive woman in beach attire enjoying herself. He used photo montages combined with drawings and juxtaposed hand-lettered and commercial type text. Photo montages were originally used by Dadaists in their protests against World War I, but Sellheim used it for a commercial use in a more refined way. He contrasted it with his hand-drawn font, which caught the viewer's eye. He follows the modernist principle of anti-historicism, with posters of the past being more detailed and weren't as bold as Sellheim's. His ideas were abstract and almost off-putting to some of the people he worked with. He was known to rip images and materials apart into the shapes he wanted, which further expresses his abstract approach. This poster also works with beach culture that Sellheim was pushing, with the woman splashing the waves at the beach. The image is inviting and makes the viewers want to visit Australia, so they can visit the beaches as well. Following another modernist principle, it evoked the spirit of the times, as this was a time where technology began rapidly improving and there was a desire to travel, and the ANTA needed a designer to attract people to Australia. Gert Sellheim was the first modernist designer amongst the first modernist designers to incorporate Aboriginal motifs, subjects, and styles into his work. Sellheim's Corroboree Australia, created in 1935, features 4 dancing Aboriginals in their traditional clothing and body paint. Similar to Surf Club, he follows the modernist principle of elementary geometric forms, as the figures are basic and angular, yet still show motion and have bold, striking colours that are commonly used in Aboriginal paintings. Australia's past treatment of Aboriginals is well known, and this is a very racist period for them. Sellheim and other designers had an interest in Aboriginal motifs and designs and incorporated them into their work. Today, they're seen as cultural appropriation, but it wasn't thought of back then. Politically, there were many laws against Aboriginals and they barely had any human rights. Socially, it was the norm to be racist to them. However, the incorporation of Aboriginal art is interesting, as despite the treatment of Aboriginals, in a way, it's almost like they're being recognised. Aboriginal cultural tourism was not actively promoted in overseas destinations such as the US in the early years. This indicates that the Aboriginal people from the earliest times took a very proactive role in tourism, particularly with regards to preserving their culture within the context of colonised people living in the assimilation era. They were seen as exotic attractions, not as people. By including them in traditional media, other people are able to notice it as well and it can stick with them. Like Douglas Ennard, he saw the inspiration that could be drawn from Australian Aboriginal motifs, and his work was distinguished by haunting reminders of Australia's past. Their works have given form to a modern identity as we look back on them and see a time where Aboriginals were looked down upon, but now Aboriginal artists are celebrated and have reclaimed their art back. Tourism Australia's Crocodile Dundee campaign, released in 2018, was a massive success as it was one of the Super Bowl ads, which is one of the most watched events in America. Advertised to be a sequel to Crocodile Dundee, a classic movie that is beloved by many, it played on nostalgia and had A-list actors. However, it turned out to be a tourism ad, but did so in a comedic way. It showcased the beaches and beautiful landmarks of Australia and is narrated with Australian humour. Sellheim's influence is clear here, as majority of his work with the AMTA focused on the beaches and landmarks of Australia. One of the major tourism attractions of Australia is our beaches, as we have multiple, and there were long, sweeping shots included in the Dundee trailer, a clear reference to beach culture, which Sellheim capitalised upon. The start of the trailer also included a didgeridoo being played, mixed with a guitar, which is also very important to Aboriginal culture. Aboriginal culture is a big part of Australian culture, with both its history and physical landmarks. However, it wasn't until Sellheim and other designers started incorporating Aboriginal symbols and cultures into their works that it really became part of Australian design culture. Tourism Australia's Mate Song campaign, released in 2019, was marketed towards England, with many English cultural references. It features Kylie Minogue, a beloved Australian icon, and it features Australian humour and slang, whilst also showcasing many Australian tourist attractions. Sellheim's influence is very clear here, with many shots of the beach and plenty of people swimming. They're shown to be using the straps on a surfboard for extra protection and are already proficient in swimming, another effect of Sellheim's work with raising awareness of safer swimming practices. Aboriginal culture is very prominent in this video as well, with many of the actors being of Aboriginal heritage, a stark contrast to Sellheim's time, where Aboriginal people were used as tourist attractions. In a particular scene, there is an art gallery with traditional Aboriginal artworks on display and people studying them. With Sellheim being one of the first designers to incorporate Aboriginal symbols into his work, the influence is clear, but in a more modern way. Although Sellheim and Tourism Australia uses Aboriginal art as attractions, Sellheim did it in a more curious, albeit mocking way, whilst Tourism Australia has done it respectfully. Towards the end of the video, Uluru is shown at sunset, highlighting the natural attraction. Aboriginal culture is yet again prominent, as Uluru is very important in Dreamtime culture as it represents their history and spiritual connection to their land. Sellheim and Tourism Australia's works advertise Australia as a beautiful country, abundant with beaches and Aboriginal culture. They both tend to play heavily on Australian stereotypes, with the golden beaches and scorching sun. However, Tourism Australia promotes Australia in a more progressive way than Sellheim did. Sellheim, having been from a more racist time, played around with Aboriginal imagery as they were used as exotic attractions and looked down upon. Tourism Australia praises Aboriginal culture and embraces it as its own, which thoroughly represents modern Australia in the 21st century.